Welcome to the museum. We're at the North Lincoln County Historical Museum, and I'm the director, Ann Hall. And I'm so glad you came today because I wanted to show you this upstairs portion of our museum. Downstairs, we have the early history, the logging, and the pioneer history, which is all great. But this upstairs really reflects Lincoln City as it is today because it's the tourism history of the area. Almost immediately when the roads were finished, people started coming to the beach. They wanted to come for a weekend just to see the ocean for the day or to stay for several days. But until the roads were finished, they couldn't. This was an isolated area. So we begin our exhibits with telling the story of the roads, how they were built and what their importance were. What kinds of services were needed in this area once tourists started coming, like gasoline, air for their tires, that kind of thing. And also what they brought. They brought produce. They brought materials that were not available here before that. So it was really important once to get these roads built and make this area accessible. But almost overnight, then it changed from a economy based on farming and logging and fishing to tourism based. And almost everybody started renting rooms out and doing something to attract tourists. So we have this first portion of our exhibits talking about people who came, and we have some examples of the auto parks that were here. Motels weren't built yet. They didn't have hotels or fancy places to stay, so people came with just their car and they camped out at these auto parks. And they were great fun. If you could see these photographs and kind of experience what they experienced, it was great. But they didn't have a lot of the amenities, of course, that the hotels had. So places like the Green Onion, we have an exhibit here, the Green Onion. It was not a bathhouse, it was a bathtub that was rented. So you could get a bath for 5 cents. And there's stories about, this little bath place. It was a cottage that had a bathroom in it, but people would line up to take their bath for a nickel because that was the only bath in town. Then we have other things that sprung up as a result of this tourism trend. And a few of them were great ideas about how to bring tourists to the area, like the Red-Headed Roundup. The Red-Head Roundup was a favorite in the 1930s because redheads were not prized anywhere in the country, but here they were treated very specially, and it turned into a 3-day event with people coming and prizes given for not only the best-looking redhead, but the tallest, the shortest, the one with the most freckles, the ones the fattest, anything that would distinguish you as a redhead got a prize. Then they had treasure hunts and all kinds of other things. As well as this Red-Head Roundup, we had a regatta on the lake, which was great because the lake was the fastest lake for speed trials. Because it's at sea level, it makes the boats faster. And once people started coming for those speed trials, they made that into a 3-day event. And there was a ball, and there was a court for the regatta, and lots of fun things to do. So some of the exhibits show that. Then we have roadside attractions. They started springing up. Hazel Lacey's Doll Museum was here for 30 years, right on Coast Highway. And people come still today saying, I remember Hazel's Doll Museum, how great it was. Well, we have an exhibit on her dolls and kind of that history. We have some exhibits showing the early motels and lodges. In fact, we have one where you can sit down in a comfortable chair and watch a video of all the lodges, motels, and various places to stay along the beach. Our most popular exhibit is the Pixie Kitchen and PixieLand exhibit. It is just so much fun, and people remember that again. They remember it after 30 years. They grew up in Salem, and they came to the coast every year, and they had to come to Lincoln City and go to the Pixie Kitchen. And PixieLand Amusement Park was ahead of its time. It was an 1890s amusement park here on the coast. Lincoln City has always been a tourist attraction. So there's been crabbing on the Siletz Bay and water skiing and fishing on the lake and fishing on the pier and surf fishing. All kinds of things to do as a recreation area. This has been traditionally the place. And people came here every year. The same hotel, the same place, and they made friends because they stayed for the summer. So our exhibits kind of reflect that upstairs. The one fun thing that we have added to this upstairs exhibit is our children's corner. And that's a place where you can drop off the kids while you go and look at all the other exhibits. Because the little kids, they can't sometimes follow along and read along, and they're not interested. But they are interested in dressing up in old-fashioned attire, cowboy hats, cowboy chaps, and riding on our saddle, taking pictures. We have a whole assortment of puppets and books and things to color, and a beautiful harp that you can't make a bad sound on, so the kids love to play that. It's a great museum, and in our guest book, people tell us all the time, oh, I didn't know this was here. If I had only known. This is a really great secret that Lincoln City is keeping. So I just want to tell you, it's not a secret. Come to the museum and experience our history, which is rich and varied, and you'll get a kick out of all the exhibits in the upstairs, but you'll also learn a lot, and if you're interested in the early history, we've got that too.